Hi, my name is Travis Austin,
And this is Nathan Kurtz.
and we work in the New Boundary Technologies Support Department. Today, we're going to talk about distributed tasks. Nate?
First, let's start by talking about how to take an already existing task and make it a distributed task. So let's take our Firefox install that was a package task, and let's make this a distributed task. So by looking at the properties of this task and moving to the Command tab, marking this task as distributed, we note that it pulls the Firefox install PWC file into the files associated with this task. The files and folders that are associated with this task are the payload of the task that will be copied down to the file storage repository that we talked about in the previous video. So if we hit OK here, we will note that this is copying it to an internal storage repository on the Prism server, so that when the distribution agent pulls in, it can copy it to itself or to the network storage repository if that was the option specified. So really quickly, let's talk about making a distributed task from scratch. So let's make a command task. And in this case, we would want to point to the full path for where MSI exec would be located. So we would find that in C, Windows, System32, and then the file name would be msiexec.exe. And here then we would put in our normal command line options, with the one difference noted here is that we are actually using the variable %distshare% for where the location for where the MSI will actually be located.
Well, can you explain a little bit, Nate, what disk share percent is in relation to the distribution point?
When a client that is a member of a distribution location sees the dist share variable in any command or script task, it will end up resolving that to where its local repository, whether that would be self-distributed or to the distribution agent that has been specified in a group type distribution location. As you have multiple distribution locations, each location would resolve the dist share variable to what the appropriate location would be for that location.
So I don't necessarily need to know what the path is to disk share percent. The Prism client knows where that is?
Correct. And then we want to check the checkbox here for distributed. And then when we hit next on the next screen, we will see, similar to like we saw before, the files and folders associated with this task. We can see that it pulled in msiexec.exe, but we also want to tell it to pull in the actual MSI that we would then call, which was the 7-zip install MSI.
So I noticed that this particular install doesn't have a folder, and one of the options here is to pull in a folder. So why might I have to pull in a folder for an install?
For example, the way that we normally recommend installing, say, Office is to unpack the contents of the ISO file for Office.
So like the whole CD and all the folder structures and stuff.
Correct. And all of the content of that folder, all of the folders, subfolders, and all of the files in them would all be needed for that task to run correctly.
So I have a folder structure. I've copied the entire contents of the install for Office, for example, and so I just associate the parent folder structures in that unique folder, and that's going to get sucked into the distribution location as well?
Correct. And so then hit finish, and then we just need to name it.
Oh, I saw it sync up there. Cool.
One other nifty way to use the dist share variable would be inside of a Prism script. So let's make a script task. Let's point it to a Prism script, and let's make the Prism script a distributed task as well. Now, inside this Prism script, I am calling an MSI command to install 7-zip. So once again, we would want to add the associated file of the actual MSI that we're calling, and then finish this out and name it. So if we come in and look at the contents of this script, we can see that it is run msiexec.exe /i dist share /7z.msi and then the quiet switch.
And the reason you don't have to pull in the whole MSI exec at this point is because MSI exec is really available as part of the NT path, correct?
Correct.
All right, well, that's distributed tasks. We've talked about the %distshare % variable, and our next video, we're going to talk about the NBT proxy server and why you might use that in your environment. Thanks.